chosen. Numbers are rising and showing. Every time we gather up, we see us growing. Anti-Navy boots when we rolling. Walking straight and narrow path as if we bowling. And we trusting we think no power don't play, we ain't joking. Feel the realness in my voice when it's spoken. Every day goes into being sold and somebody's broken. That's what you get when you left hope and vulnerable to it when you left open. After hours, I'm sorry, but we closing. Get rid of it. Perish the parasite. You know what you would like a termite. So what you gonna do? Fight or flight. Pass all the obstacles and continue with my life.
I gotta keep moving. Can't let nothing stand in my way. Stay on the path. Never go astray. I gotta keep moving. Can't let nothing stand in my way. Stay on the path. Never go astray.
After every dark tunnel, there was some light. Traveling through it, got you saying this is some life. Can't count your words like singing on karaoke mics. You couldn't walk a mile in my blue nights. You can fall off the path and lose sight. Every day making my way to reach new heights. Can't do nothing about the circumstance of yesterday. Just prepare for the road leading to a better way. Home sweet home is where you wanna stay. Protected from the madness of today. It don't make it no better when they threaten to take it all away. Bottle all my emotions up and throw it all away in front to show them how we don't play. So don't be smiling in my face. Every day bloodlines be in the race. For goodness sakes, so tell me, do you got what it takes?
I gotta keep moving. Can't let nothing stand in my way. Stay on the path. Never go astray. I gotta keep moving. Can't let nothing stand in my way. Stay on the path. Never go astray.
Follow the image of my descendants on the path that's continuous, never ending, like a new beginning, consistently walking into the next. Shit that old, if it hinders the evolution, then let it go. We have the total control, dictate what you say and where you go. The leaders of the next world, because this one is ending. Let's be real, no more pretending. Everything that don't get just sugarcoat it. You believe everything they say when you quote it. You learned it from school, now you think you know it. Miseducated from the start. It will dismantle your mind apart. Leave you in the dark about who you are and where you're going. Existing in life, not never knowing. Your mind not growing. It's limited, real ignorant. Since birth, they've been trying to put an end to it.
I gotta keep moving. Can't let nothing stand in my way. Stay on the path. Never go astray. I gotta keep moving. Can't let nothing stand in my way. Stay on the path. Never go astray. I gotta keep moving. Can't let nothing stand in my way. Stay on the path. Never go astray. I gotta keep moving. Can't let nothing stand in my way. Stay on the path. Never go astray.
All right. Good evening. Good evening and welcome to High and Mighty Talks with Nuben Menkarayzz. I'm your host, the intellectual Nuben Menkarayzz. And again, okay, let's see it again. It's High and Mighty Talks with me, Nuben Menkarayzz. I'm going to touch on a bunch of things. I'm so glad to be back. I want to light up one of these. You know, Make sure I'm coming in clear. Am I coming in clear? Am I coming in clear, everyone? I want to make sure I'm coming in clear. Am I coming in clear? I'll make sure I'm coming in clear. Okay, everybody says class. Okay. Okay, good. Okay. Let's get the last of my questions together. Class. All right, good. All right. Okay. All right. Okay, copying the last of my daughter in the background. Right. We're going to touch on some good things tonight. All right. We're going to touch on some hot topics. But let me add one more thing to my talking points. I'd like to have them in front of me. Okay. I hate when I can't find something. Okay. All right. And here we go. All right. In the name of Amen, the Supreme, the All-Powerful, the one and only true Lord, in Amen we trust, in Amen we think, and in Amen we continue forward forever. All right. I'm going to touch on some things. The hot topic tonight is this, my thoughts on this guy, on this individual guy by the name of Mallory. I forget what his first name is. Let me take a sip of my water. Who's like, you know, like the jersey? We're going to have them for sale. It's an Underlord jersey from the Raptors set. The Underlord jersey, you know. It says show the back. It's just Underlord on the back. Just see Underlord on the back. That's all. You see it? Underlord? You see it?
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Uh-huh. My wide back, so. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, that's coming from the Underlord line and whatnot. But, yeah, we'll have links for that soon. A lot of stuff coming from Underlord Company. For sport and life, you know, that and casual and upscale things. But anyway, I'm gonna discuss this thing going on with this guy, Courtney Mallory, I think his name, Courtney. I said my thoughts on what's taking place with him. This is for those of you who don't know, this is a bronze man, so-called black man, a farmer, rancher in Colorado, who has purchased, him and his wife purchased 1,000 acres of land. All right, they purchased 1,000 acres of land, and they went out there to Colorado to pursue their dream. They took their life savings, and they purchased 1,000 acres of land for which they paying taxes on, for which the state sold to them. Right? They sold this land to these people. These people are paying property tax on this land. Right? All of this. Right? These people have done nothing wrong to obtain this land. Yet, they get this land, right? And, you know, upon getting this land that was not occupied, anything, just sitting there, good farmland, animals and things like that, he purchases the land. And all this man wants to do is come there with his family, his woman, and they want to farm and make a life and sell their food and their produce or whatever they do. Basically like any other farm, right? Bronze people, so-called black people, was the first farmers in America, period. We were the first farmers here. Going back to our indigenous ethnic American heritage, we were the first farmers here. Hell, we taught the Caucasians to farm. They didn't know how to farm anything. Again, that's another reason why they had our people in indentured servitude and in slavery, certain point slavery, some in indentured servitude, whatever, because the Caucasians did not know, the Caucasian immigrants who came here did not know how to farm the land, right? They did not know how to farm the land. So therefore, they needed the indigenous people to farm the land. The indigenous people who was planting all kinds of crops here, from cotton, tobacco, you know, all kinds of food products and things like that. Of course, they did all that because that was the economy. That was what the economy was built on here in America: cotton and tobacco. I think sugar was a third one. I'm pretty sure it was sugar, but that's what built up America. That is what created trade in America. But the Caucasians, and it was such a huge demand for it in Europe and all over the place. That's what made these planters who had tobacco farms and people who came over here, you know, doing tobacco and cotton and all kinds of other crops. That's what made America wealthy. The wealth started out in the South and in the North, because you had farms in the North, and it was our people, North and South, who were planting these lands here in America for the immigrant Caucasians. What am I saying? I'm saying our people were already here in America, and we were already growing these crops. And had it not been for us growing food crops and these things, there would be no United States. That's a fact. The United States was built on the slave labor of the indigenous American people here, the bronze copper-colored people, or the copper-colored people described in the 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary. These people, meaning our people, did not come over here on no transatlantic slave ships, because if we did, we wouldn't know how to farm the land. We wouldn't know how to plant the land. We were planting cotton and harvesting it and growing it and picking it. We wasn't just picking it. See, they cut off the part, the Caucasians in their revised American history love to make up this lie that they went over to Africa to pick up slaves and just bring them over here to pick cotton. You're going to bring a whole bunch of people from a whole nother continent just to pick cotton, and you had all these people here in this country already, poor white people coming here who you didn't have to pay next to nothing to pick cotton. Why would you bring a whole hostile set of people from a whole nother region, a whole nother continent, crossing over the so-called transatlantic transatlantic river, transatlantic ocean, excuse me, transporting them all the way over from Africa into America? What sense does that make? And then they didn't even have the type of boats that were needed to bring these slaves here. You see, so that was already a lie. There's no proof that a transatlantic slave trip ever happened. That's made up, right? That whole Amistad thing happened once, along with a few things. That whole Amistad thing happened once, and very few. And once that happened, it no longer happened again. Amistad didn't happen. All right. They said that these Africans they brought over here, they went to court and all this other stuff, and they turned the ship around, all kinds of stuff like that. But they wasn't bringing no Africans over here into America because it didn't make any sense. It made more sense to just enslave the people here, which is what they did. A lot of slavery here in America was bait and trap, or catching, catch and carry, and it's basically kidnap people, children. A lot of slavery came about from indigenous tribes here, indigenous American tribes here, or what you call Indians, the white men call Indians, or we refer to as Injun or Niji, who were captured in wars with the Caucasians over land. So women and children were captured, and that's how slavery was started. They were thrown into slavery when they were captured in fights and wars with the Caucasians for land. Our people were already indigenous to America before the Caucasians, before the Asian Mongoloids came over here and mixed in with us, and and came over here slaves themselves. We were already here in America as the Mayans, going back that far. We made our first appearance into North America by way of Central and South America into the Americas, and in doing that, we were the first ones, as the Mayans and the Aztecs, to basically spread out all over, because it was millions of them of us here that made that over here, and then started, procreating and mass producing and spread out, and then next thing you know, everybody broke off into their own little tribes and things like that. This is how you get all these different Indian tribes here. So, when the Caucasians came here, the tribes were already split up from the old Mayan setup when they came over here into North America. This is why you could find their mounds and things in Georgia and whatnot. They never tried to, like I said, notice in Caucasian history, they tried to erase the Mayans' presence here in America, because You see, if the presence of the Mayans is here, which they know about the Mayan ruins here in America and down south in Mississippi and Alabama and parts of Georgia, you see all this stuff. If that is acknowledged, then they would have to acknowledge that black people, so-called black people, were here in America before the Caucasians, before the Mongoloid Indians, who basically mixed in with us and took our indigenous culture on. That's why I said, when you see me wearing those feathered head crowns, notice that's our culture. That comes from the Mayans and the Mesoamerican, which the Mongoloids mixed in and copied our culture. They just mixed in with our people. That's why you'll see the early ones with dark skin and straight hair. And I'm just basically, blended in and copied our culture. That's all they did, because we were very strong here in North America. Going back to our Mayan ancestry, we had thousands and thousands of years here before the Caucasians was even thought about in America, or the Asians before they made it over here. We was already here in America thousands of years, and I'm talking about just in North America. I'm not even talking about the rest of South and Central America. But anyway, going back to, I didn't mean to get off track with that. I always got to throw a little indigenous factory in there, which we're going to bring up that word factory in a minute. But this guy, Courtney, right, Mallory, he purchased this land, and his first mistake was that he didn't look and see who he was buying land around. He didn't look to see who he was buying land around. He didn't look to see where he was buying land around, right? He didn't check the demographic, the racial makeup and things like that. He didn't know where he was buying land. You see, black people have to stop, so-called black people, my bronze people. I'm calling you black, but my bronze people. We have to stop walking around here in America and acting like we're naive about where we are. Yes, this is our homeland. Yes. Should we leave this homeland? No. This is ours. But you have to be aware of who's here, the presence of the, I'm going to call these creatures people, but you have to realize the presence of what's here and what's around you. I'm going to just say it like this. He should have understood that he was moving around a bunch of human animals. He was moving around a bunch of wild, savage animals. Okay? Wild, savage animals who killed his animals, killed his livestock, decapitated his livestock, even murdered one of his hands, his farm hands that was working on the land. And I think they murdered the guy's wife too. They killed a so-called black man, bronze man, who was working on the land. I think he was black, if I'm not mistaken. He was helping out on the land. He was being paid to work on the land. I think his wife lived there. They killed him and killed his wife. And they said they found this guy with his pants down, bent over, and they blew his brains out, and somebody pulled his pants down. Now, why would somebody, if you want to kill somebody, why would you, read up on that. Somebody pulled this guy's pants down and blew his brains out. This was the guy Mallory, one of his workers. And I think they killed his wife too. Nobody said nothing about that. The police didn't investigate that. Nothing. They turned around and arrested the guy Mallory, who did nothing but farm on the land that he purchased. Now, I think that the bank and whoever he purchased it from, they should have warned him that you have a very hostile racial climate in that area. People who are, not quite evolved mentally. People are basically animals who have a problem with people just trying to live their life, not trying to come there and start no problem. Just people trying to live their life, make a living. These people dreamed about farming, and they took their hard-earned money, tax-paying people who've been in this country, whose bloodline I'm sure goes back way before these Caucasians who set up here and basically vandalized this man's property, killed his animals, killed his worker, right? These savages, these animals, but I partially blame the so-called black man for that. Mallory, I blame him for that. Why? Because this man looks to be all of in his 60s, I'll say maybe his late 50s, 60s, I'll give him that. And you cannot be in America this long and not know what you're dealing with when you're dealing with these human animals. You see, When you're dealing with animals on two legs, because that's what these people are, animals on two legs, anybody would act like this for people who are doing nothing but just trying to live their life. Get out of our town. This is not even their land. And I'm pretty sure with some poor white trash who was jealous, angry, hating. Don't think a so-called black man is supposed to have 1,000 acres of land. Don't think that the so-called black man is supposed to want to prosper and do. It's okay for them to make money and prosper, but we have to be doing bad. We got to be living in the projects. We got to be living in the ghettos, in the hood. That's what satisfies them. You see, that's what satisfies these animals. They not doing no better than so-called black people, because if they was doing so much better, they would have just bought the property themselves. They should have bought, if they wanted to make sure that only white people was going to live on the land, they should have bought the property themselves and only sold it to white people. How you going to let this man buy this property? Y'all couldn't afford to buy the property, but then you're going to get angry at him. You should get angry at the bank for selling it to him. You see? But no one did, and this man went in there all gullible, thinking that he was going to go in there. I think he came with some Black Lives Matter nonsense, and he came in there with the cross. Came in there with the cross, thinking we all the same, we all human, we all just want to live in peace and believe in God. You know that nonsense you gullible black people do when you're going around these animals? You think that you can appeal to these animals by using God and decency and morals, which these people don't have any. You're moving around people, you're surrounding yourself with animals, around savages who have no morals. Because for you to kill an animal, for you to kill a man and pull his pants, they probably sodomized him. So not only are you a damn murderer, you're a damn sodomite on top of that. Why would you pull a man's pants? They said they thought it was Mallory. They probably thought it was Mallory who they was killing. So my question to this guy is, if you had enough money, it's not a cigar. Those of y'all know this is not a cigar, by the way. This is definitely not stuff for no tobacco, if you know what I mean. But if you had enough money, to logically purchase that much land, and you didn't bother to see that you were purchasing around a bunch of animals, around a bunch of human animals, a bunch of savages, because that's all the human race is. The human race is nothing but advanced animals. That's all they are. And they have the mark of the animal from their hair. You could look at their hair and tell. Their hair tells the whole story of what they are. And it also explains as to why they act the way they do. They act the way they do because they are animals. They're nothing but advanced animals. They're not evolved into people. They're still half animal, half people. I'm talking about all of your humans. Your Asians, your Caucasians, your East Indians, all those people with the straight hair that y'all all love and worship that so much. You do know that's fur. That's not real. This is hair. This is hair. So-called black people, bronze people are the only ones that got hair. Everybody else has fur because they have an animal origin. Humans are animals. We are not a part of the human race. I explained that in the older videos. We are actually a whole nother species altogether, a whole nother racial species, a whole nother species altogether. We are the almond race, so-called black people. This is why we don't look like everybody else here. Now, like I said, I don't care if people think I'm crazy in making that statement. I'm the first one ever to make that statement that we are not part of the human race, that we are actually a whole separate race, a whole separate species known as almond. The almond race. And the almond race begat the human race. The almond race was here on earth before the human race, before the creation of the human race. In fact, we participated in the creation of the human race. But that's a whole nother account. Check out all my broadcasts. I talked about that on MENTELLECT Radio. So it would make sense that these people, or should I say these human animals, would have that anger and that hate and that savagery in them, because an animal is a savage. An animal is wild at its height, and hopefully you can only act like these animals will be domesticated and not be animalistic, but you're dealing with animals when you're dealing with these humans. I'm just letting you know. So you have to expect them to act, you know, like themselves, savages, animals, and you got to be smarter than that. You see, Courtney, you went into that area with blinders on. And and Courtney, you unfortunately have to be an example for the rest of the so-called black race who go around these human animals, who mix their seed with the human animals, who think that we the same as them. We're not the same. I mean, goddamn, at this point, ain't it obvious we're not the same? Look at us and look at them. How many times I got to say this? If I got to sound, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, look at us and look at everybody else. Look at so-called black people and our hair, our skin, our texture, everything. The bronze, copper-colored people. Look at us and look at everybody else. Do we look like them? Do we look like we the same as any of them? No, we do not. And because of that, this is why we're hated, because we're not, and this is what racism is really all about. Like I said, and I'll keep repeating it, and at the risk of sounding like a broken record, racism is about hatred of a different species. It has nothing to do with skin color, because you got East Indians who are just as dark as us, but they got the same straight fur like the Caucasians and the Asians and the East Indians, which they are the East Indians. Like I said, the East Indians got the same straight hair like them. And they're accepted. If they move if they moved onto that land, I bet you they wouldn't have had no problem. If East Indians or Asians would have moved onto that land in Colorado, I guarantee you they would not have had a problem. They would have accepted them. But everybody seems to have a problem with bronze people, so-called black people, prospering in this country. Everyone seems to have a problem with that. No one wants to see us with money. You notice that? Look at the police. The police are much quicker to pull over a so-called black man, a bronze man, and a nice car than one with an old beat-up car. If you got a very nice car and you driving it, don't have a Rolls Royce or a Mercedes. They'll just pull you over just because. Depending on where you are, they'll pull you over just because. Not because you did nothing wrong, but because in their mind, you ain't supposed to be driving that car. And they'll use their badges, their guns, and their so-called authority to press home the point that, nigga, we don't like you driving nice cars here because we ain't driving them. You see, these humans have a very whole-like spirit. And when I say they have a very whole-like spirit, I mean they got the spirit of females, these humans. Why do I say they got the spirit of females, these humans? Because they are of the Eve seed. All you people who are of the Eve seed, you have the spirit of a female on you. That jealousy spirit is a female spirit. Not to be mistaken with women. See, females and women are not the same thing. Women are on a higher level than females. Okay? Mass majority of the opposite sex on the planet are females. A lot of females, very few women. Because the difference I gave between women and females is one is anatomically correct. The other one is anatomically and mentally correct. Because in order for you to be considered a woman, you have to be in alignment with what a woman is. You have to be mentally in alignment to what a woman is. Meaning you have to know what the purpose and what the criteria of what a woman is, what the criteria of what a woman is. You see, which is to be companions to men. Women are here to be companions to men, helpmates to men, to be the order to the law that men set forward. That's what the purpose of a woman is. Females don't follow that. Females don't think like that. Neither do males. Males don't think like that neither. Males and men are different, just like females and women are different. They're very opposite that. In fact, the term male and female is very interchangeable, thus the term unisex, right? Because you can't have a unisex. You can't use the word unisex when there's a definitive state of men and women. There's men's clothes and there's women's clothes. They don't say male and female clothes. There's men's clothes and there's women's clothes. All right. Then the unisex is for the male and female who play and interchange with themselves. You know, one minute they act like they masculine or so-called masculine, next minute they acting effeminate. So, and vice versa with these females. One minute they acting like males, and next minute they trying to act like females. So when you are men and women, there's no really interchanging of that. But males and females, they can interchange like that. And that's also the foundation of homosexuality and lesbianism. That's just people switching back and forth to the state of male and female, because male and female is interchangeable. Not men and women. So this guy, like I said, what he should have did was, like I said, did a search of what type of people live in the area. What is the racial makeup of the area, right? Have there been any racial incidents there? Is this a racial area? Because I'm pretty sure he probably thought, I'm gonna just stay on my land and, you know, only go out when to the store when we need stuff from the store, but we just gonna basically stay on our land. That's no good to these people. You know, this is the same problem that happened in Mississippi, that happened in Rosewood, that happened in Black Wall Street, Greensville, North Carolina, wherever bronze, copper-colored people built that. You always had these human animals who were jealous, who had the spirit of females on them. That's both the male and the female. They both had that Eve-seeded energy, that degenerate energy on them. And they see bronze people doing nice, doing good things, making money. Like they burn down your store, kill you, destroy your property like a bunch of savages, like a bunch of goddamn vandals. Then the beast turns around, because now, you know, of course, they join the police force too. That's their cousins over there that just burnt down your house. That's your cousins over there that just burnt up your livestock, Courtney. That, see, when you call the police, you should have realized that these people are all together. These are the same people that went to high school with these people, that burned up that killed your cattle. They went to school with them. That's their family members. That's their friends. So what, of course, do they do when you call the police and you complain about these human animal attacks you've been, you know, receiving, that you've been on the receiving end of? When you call the police, what do the police do? They come and arrest you. Why they come and arrest you? I have no idea. They come and arrest you for calling the police on the people that who are arresting you. You're a tax-paying citizen there. If you own property in Colorado, you're a tax-paying citizen, which means you pay those police salaries. So you're paying for them to come and arrest you. And the people that killed your animals and whatnot, they don't get arrested. These people are on your land. They stalking your land. They coming up on your land. What you should have did, Courtney, is you should have fenced off your land. I mean, high fences. You should have fenced off your land. You should be asking for goddamn GoFundMe money to buy good fencing. See, this is the problem I got with a lot of you so-called black people. Y'all go out here like this guy Courtney and his wife, and you go on this individual mindset. You go out there like black people do. Black people walk around in the world. I'm my own God. I'm my own individual. I don't need no community. I don't need no people with me. I don't need to be part of nothing. It's just me and my family and whatever. Right? I don't need none of that. I don't need no help until you need help. Until these animals get together. See, because when the animals come, they coming in packs. When the animals come, you ain't never seen no animal just wandering by itself. The animal always come in pack. The humans are no different. The humans are nothing but animals. They nothing but dogs on two legs. They're nothing but animals on two legs. So when they come, trust me, they in packs. They together. They on code. They want you out of there. They want your black ass out of there. That's how they feel about it. Cause you making them feel some kind of way about the failure in their life. See, when you are a success in your life, you too busy to be worrying about. I'm not saying these rich people, they don't do foul stuff like that, but usually they get the police to do it, or the rich white people get the white trash to go do it. You see the white trash that did that to you, 9 times out of 10, they working for somebody who with money, who owned property, who put them up to it, right? Or they just some haters that was just around and hate to see that you making money and you a so-called black man in this country, right? That's a damn shame. We can't live in peace in our own country. If we not under attack by these Caucasians, we under attack by Caucasian police, black police, the whole goddamn police force, our people are under attack, right? And Courtney don't get that. Courtney think he could just kumbaya his way through it. be friends with these people. He should have understood from, and again, see how black people don't learn lessons in history or factory. They don't learn questions about that. They don't learn. They don't learn their lesson. I mean, to say from that, he didn't look at Rosewood. He didn't look at Black Wall Street. He didn't look at Greenville, South Carolina. He didn't look at places like that and see that whenever you're doing too well, when you're doing good, and you have a bunch of angry, jealous, broken trash around you, just like broken bottles. If somebody break a bunch of bottles in front of your feet, you're trying to walk forward, you're gonna eventually step on those broken pieces of glass and cut your foot. That's what you did, Courtney. That's what you and your wife did. You had a path to success by buying that land, which was a beautiful thing. And these people are like broken glass in your way. And they're not going to stop. They're not going to let up. See, now that they thought, because what happened was they seen you was by yourself. They seen you and your wife was by yourself. They see you didn't come out there with a bunch of people. What you should have came out there with a private security force. You should have got money for a private security force. And you should have got black and white, so-called black and white, hired security. Don't matter what race they are, who carry guns. You should have fenced off your property. And you should have let those private security register with the police department and let it be known that these are licensed security officers that work for your company. You should have incorporated your property, turned it into a business, fenced off your land, sold stock in your land, and to put food. So a lot of things you could have did to combat this. If you would have been thinking not thinking like an individual, but thinking collectively and figuring how you can bring your people in on something like this, meaning so-called black people, bronze people, how they can be helped. Why you wait until now when these animals have attacked you on several occasions? What's next? They're going to kill you and your wife? Hopefully not. May and forbid. But you're not doing anything to help this because, again, I listened to you talking. You was talking about Jesus, which I'm going to get into in a minute. You were talking about Jesus and Black Lives Matter and all kind of other nonsense. Oh, look, man, you dealing with animals, okay? And I'm not trying to even be funny because only an animal would do that. Only an animal is uncivilized enough to kill other animals, kill a person just for trying to live. That's it. This man didn't do nothing to nobody, just trying to live. And they attacked this man like this. A law-abiding citizen, taxpayer. But he's treated like the criminal. Only in the animal kingdom. Keep in mind, we are in the animal kingdom at this time. We are in the animal kingdom. These humans are animals. They are the beast that's spoken of in the book of Revelation. These humans. They are the beast. And who are we? We are the Amen race. We are the elect in this day that's going to be gathered up. The ones of our people who hear this message. I think you missed the message, Courtney. But see, like I tell you, so-called black people, you always end up coming around to figuring out I can't get nowhere by myself. So what do Courtney do? He puts up a GoFundMe, which of course he wants black people. He say all people, but he really wants black people to contribute. He wants black people to go to the Colorado State Capitol and protest what's going on with him. That's a little bit too, I would hope people would participate, but it's a little bit too late for all that. You should have, did that. You should have, if you got enough money to do that, you should have, took out another loan or started a GoFundMe or something like that and fenced off your property. It's fence off your property, fence off your house, and hire security. And incorporate your phone. See, had you done that, anybody set foot on your property, and once the police done been informed that there's hired security, bonded, licensed security on your property or licensed to carry guns, anybody that steps on your property is supposed to get a bullet in their ass. You see, they supposed to be dead on your property like the animals that they kill. It's supposed to be two-legged animals dead on your property for violating your property because they got no problem with killing you. If you step one foot on their property, they have no problem with blowing your damn head off. So you got to think the same way. Our people got to stop playing with these animals, man. That's the problem with our people. I get so sick and tired of you so-called black people looking for justice from other animals. When you get attacked by animals, you're looking for justice from other animals. Listen, the only justice and judgment you're going to get is the judgment and the justice that you deliver. But you got to be righteous as a people. You got to be righteous before you render that judgment, if you know what I mean. So, Courtney Mallory, you know, I feel sorry for your situation, brother, but you really should have stop thinking like a black man. You see, that's our problem. You know, that's the problem, Courtney. You was thinking like a black man. You're going to have to learn to think like a bright man. You have to learn to think like a bright man, not a black man. See, because the black man and the black woman here in America have become and have let themselves become perpetual victims of Caucasians, of so-called white people and other races of people. Not just white people, but the people who are deemed as white people. Because, again, like I told you before, white is not just, you know, connected to Caucasians. White status is just that, a status. Has nothing to do with color. It's a status. And I told you that black is code word for indigenous, white is code word for immigrant. The police, the policy officers of this country, their job is to protect only the people who are classified as white. That's their job, to protect only the people who are classified as white, aka immigrants. The people who are classified as black, the indigenous people, the real indigenous people, not the so-called Mongoloid Indians. They're not the indigenous people of this land. The term Native American, that comes from the Know Nothing Party. These are not the indigenous people. The indigenous people are the bronze copper-colored people who are falsely being called black, or the copper-colored people as spoken of the 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary, which I will continue to quote. Those are the people who are the original and real Americans. And in fact, the word America comes from our people, not Africa. America comes from our people. Get it straight. So, in knowing this, Courtney, I wish you the best on, you know, your endeavor. I hope that GoFundMe is going, like you said, you're trying to get a security system. No, bro, you need a goddamn gate, or you need a high fences around your property. You need high fences, and you need armed security on your property. That's what you need. And if anybody interferes, like the police, they should have to show cause as to why they come into your property. When they told you they wasn't going to do nothing for you, you should have took that as, you got to handle your own business, man. You calling the police on these people or not, the police ain't going to arrest them people. That's their friends. That's their cousins. They went to school with these people. They all white trash. Please understand that for you people that think that it's sweet out here. When you're dealing with these humans, man, you got to expect everything, every and anything, man, and always be prepared to do what you got to do. And you know what I mean when I say do what you got to do. You do it to them before they do it to you. ASAP. ASAP, Rocky. Next one. Let's see. Next, I want to touch on the illusion of black and white. I told you all before, there is no black skin or black race of people. There is no white race of people. These are simply designations of status, class. I know y'all heard this before, but I got to beat the dead horse again. You're not black people. Our skin is not black. That's a classification. That's all. That's a classification for indigenous people. Black, because black is symbolic of erasing or wiping something out. Right? Black is indigenous. The term black is used for our people as a code word of wiping or erasing something out. Because when you black out something, you're covering over it, you're hiding it. You're trying to wipe it out of sight. Thus the phrase of the millions of Indians that disappeared out of America, where they say, oh, you don't see no Indian families no more. The Indians, millions of them died off and they just disappeared and whatnot. That's a load of BS. I told you the millions of Indians that they say that disappeared, they didn't die. They were reclassified as African Americans, Negroes, and colored people. That's what happened to them because it was too many of us here to kill. It was too many of us here to wipe out. Don't believe this nonsense that they killed off all the Indians. They want you to believe that they talk about the Mongoloid Indians. let me tell you something. It wasn't a lot of those Mongoloid Indians. A lot of those pictures you see with the Mongoloid Indians, these are a lot of redone pictures or pictures that were taken over and over again. They used the same people. So they were doing every and anything. The Caucasian immigrants that came here and the so-called founding fathers and the people that's writing the history going forward here in this country, they were doing everything in their power to create a class system amongst the indigenous and the immigrants, with the immigrants being first and being classified as white, and the indigenous people, the Indians as they call it, being classified as black, Negro. First they call us colored people, which again comes from the copper colored people, Merriam-Webster 1828 dictionary. So my point is that no millions of Indians disappeared. They were just reclassified. Now notice they talked about only the 5 civilized tribes that the government was willing to accept. So if they were only willing to accept 5 civilized tribes, I think it was the Cherokee, the Sioux, which is basically a lot of fake tribes that the white man gave names to. But there were tribes, or they call savages, who they refused to acknowledge. Who was those tribes? Who was those tribes that were not? Because again, they're telling you that there were more than so-called 5 Indian tribes or indigenous tribes. Who were the tribes that were not included in that 5 civilized Indians group they put together? Black people, so-called black people, the bronze copper colored people. We had tribes. I done heard so many different tribal names and whatnot that our people had, because I told you when the Aztec people broke up, they went in different sections and whatnot, and they basically took their own. They started, groups of them went and did their own thing over here. A group of them went and did their thing over here. A group of them went, and that's how the so-called American Indians spread all over the world, through the American indigenous people, spread all over. But then you had the Mongoloids come in here because they came through slavery. A lot of them, some of them crossed the Berings, but a lot of them came through slavery. They were brought here and they mixed in with the indigenous people. The black, so-called black copper-colored people, they mixed in with. You see, they mixed in with us and adopted our cultures. So when you see them wearing Indian feathers and headdresses, that's our stuff. Stop believing this nonsense that, that's their culture and that's their indigenous culture. Well, if you look at these people, you can clearly see they're Asian. So you should trace back their Asian origin, their Asian heritage, which the white man already did, and blew them up. Thanks, shout out to the Caucasians. Yeah, they blew up them. You blew up your Mongoloid brothers, because for the longest time they was up here trying to act like they was here. They didn't come from no place else, but they finally just had to come out and admit, look, we came from Asia, we Mongoloids, and we came over here. But you got to then tell who you came over here, and when you came over here, who you saw. Just look at the Bone and Park temples, and they'll tell you when they was coming into the South and Central America, who they met up with and who was putting them to death and putting them in jail and doing all this other stuff, and just straight up killing them because they came over here as lawbreakers. So now we represent the indigenous tribes that were not counted. That's us. We represent the indigenous tribes that were not counted. So-called black people. We represent that. They say that's how they wiped out the Indians, by calling us black people, basically covering over us with this whole African-American lie and stuff. All right? So that's an illusion, all that black and white. Those are just statuses, code words, statuses for, indigenous and immigrant, because the so-called founding fathers, they don't want to bring out that history, because the whole African slave trade narrative, that works for them. That works for them to believe that we are African, which brings me to my next, point. Right? Are our people treated like indigenous people here in America? I asked that question. Are black people really treated like indigenous people here in this country? The answer is yes. Black people are treated like indigenous people. But what you got to understand is the treatment of indigenous people is foul. The immigrants treat the indigenous people foul. They're not fair with them. Now, let me give you a good example of that. Let's go with the Caucasian's lie, his narrative that the Mongoloid Indians are the real indigenous Americans. Let's go with that for a minute. They claim to have so much respect. The Caucasians claim to have so much respect for the American Indian and things like that, because you never see they don't have no real smoke for the Indians like that. They claim to have so much respect and love for the Indians. So then my thing is, why is it that y'all invade their reservations? Because I've seen on play where you invaded their reservation, put pipelines in and stuff like that, and did this, that, and the third for them. So I've seen that happen. I've seen you on TV violating these people. I've seen it. And that's fine. They got to hold their own water. That's their thing. But my thing is, don't act like you respect the so-called Native Americans, because that's what they are. They're Native Americans. They're not American Indians. I told you the difference. The American Indians are the real indigenous people. The Native Americans are the immigrants, because that term Native American comes from the Know Nothing Party, which are Caucasians who were trying to blend in the early 1800s. Those are the people who went and became your $5 Indians. Y'all got a lot of Caucasians living on y'all so-called reservation. I told you that. Y'all supposed to have beef with the white man. Y'all supposed to hate the white man because of what he did to y'all. How come he living on y'all reservation? Why y'all ain't kick him off your reservations? Why you let him join the tribe? Why you let him walk around with the feathered head crown on and whatnot? Y'all ain't got a goddamn thing to say about it. But when Nuben Menkarayzz put it on and I was posting around, we had people basically, oh, y'all from Africa, and that was the Mongoloids come out, you know, because they love our culture. They love our American indigenous culture so much. It would kill them to have to know that this is our thing. You're copying us. It would kill them to have to know. A lot of them don't know. A lot of them really don't know. But like I said, we're going to educate them tonight. Is God and racism connected? That's the next topic. Is God and racism connected? Oh, absolutely. In fact, the only reason why we were taught religion and this belief in a God and the devil and all something, the only reason we were taught that was for Caucasians to get us to see them as somehow divine, because they presented the picture of Jesus to you as a white man. So they basically wanted you to worship a white man. That's all. That's the only reason why they exposed you to Christianity. They wanted you to worship a white man. And thus they figured by you worshiping white people, you're going to then worship them. You follow? You will worship, if you worship Jesus Christ and you tell them this is your God, this is God, and this is what we believe in, this is what it is, you're putting yourself on a pedestal too, because now these people are going to look to you for what the meaning of this God is that you claim exists. They're going to look to you. Mm-hmm. And when you can't really give the people what they want when they look to you, that's going to give you clarity about who you are. It's going to give clear clarity. Like I said, the people in church who on their knees to Jesus, worshiping the image of a Caucasian, whether y'all paint the face black or whatnot, it's still the actions of a Caucasian, a story written by Caucasians, which was edited from our ancient Kemetic stories, right? Of Horus and Isis, which became Mary and Jesus. So you got to watch these things. You gotta watch these things. We don't need to be worshiping no more God or fearing no devils. We need to stop that. Just like we need to stop allowing people to call us black people. Let them give them back their black nonsense. Give them back their African American nonsense, because we never came from Africa. Give all of that back, man. Give all of that back and be who you really are, the real Americans. The real Americans. And like I said before, a lot of idiots think, oh, that's the white man, so I came from. No, it came from our people. The word America came from our people. Okay? That came from our people. In fact, it says in the 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary, right, where it says the word American pertaining to the copper-colored races here in the Americas. So my thing is this. If the word America if you claim the word America came from Amerigo Vespucci, and you had people who were connected to this African thing, for thousands of years and whatnot, so how you going to sit up here and say, oh, they from, nah. No, That's not going to stand. Let me see. So like I said, God was only given to our people so that God was basically a tool to get us to worship white people. That's all religion was. Christianity, Islam, all that stuff. It was given to our people, especially Christianity, because that's the heaviest it was given to our people. It was only given to our people to get them to worship the image of the beast, get them to worship these two-legged animals. That was it. That's why y'all got a hard time thinking about doing something to them when they try to harm you. And when they harm you, you think about doing something. You think twice about it because you get that picture of Jesus in your head, that roaming, random image of Christ. And in your head, you start talking shit like, well, what would Jesus do? Nothing, because he's not real. But as real people, you know what you're supposed to do when you under animal attack. You already know what you're supposed to do. Are you supposed to reason with the animal? Are you supposed to talk to the animal? Are you supposed to say, hey, come on? What are you supposed to do when you're under animal attacks? All right? What are you supposed to do? You kill the animal. You kill the animal. I'm going to say it again because you kill the animal. Simple as that. Whether it's on 4 legs or 2 legs, you kill the animal. It's no different. It is no different when some human is attacking you, trying to harm you and your family. You already know you got to take them out. You got to take them out. I don't care what kind of jobs they got or what kind of status they got. If your family is under attack, and goddamn it, as a man, you should not stand for that. That should not be able to stand. And you people who do that, who do these attacks like this, down from the police to these white trash that's on the land, y'all going to pay for that, man. You're going to pay for that because, again, judgment is going to come to all of those who were in that state of wrongiousness. And that's my word, wrongiousness. You got righteousness and you got wrongiousness. You see. And even you, Courtney, you was obviously in that state of wrongiousness too, because you go look at the stuff before you. You want to use your people. You want your people to come out and support you after you in trouble. You see how black people always go and start trying to pull and cobble together other black people for their best interests? Like, I'm going to just say it like this. Like Tamir Rice's mother and all the mother women who got Trayvon Martin, mother and father. You want to be the pillars of black community or the so-called black community because your children got killed. But your husbands, your fathers of these children, you see, the fathers of your children, it should have just been a whole nother type of thing that went down after your children were put to death at the hands of these animals. It should have got real funky. And those people who put their hands on you should not even be breathing no more. Because if they could take your children's life, why should they be able to walk around and live if they could take your children's lives? And that go for anybody to harm your family or even you. Y'all got to start thinking like that. You guys, you so-called black people, y'all got all the smoke in the world for each other. But when it comes to beasts and these humans, oh, you already know the story. You know what I'm going to say. The gun jam, I don't know. Yo, we going to get a lot of time for this. Whatever. You didn't think about that when you was banging on another black person. Another so-called black person. You didn't care about the time, or you didn't care about, it's don't work, or the gun worked all of a sudden then. When it's a black person, they fire all the shots. For somebody 9 times out of 10 didn't do a goddamn thing to you. Now, y'all time coming too, man. All right? Well, if you act like an animal, like somebody said, if you act like an animal, you should be put down like an animal. If you act like a wild animal and savage, you should be put down like a wild animal and savage. You see? No, you got to stop. Because if you want to die, you want to die. Simple as that. But you should take them with you. Take whoever trying to take you out, take them with you. Or you take them. Better being judged by a jury of 6 than by better being judged by a jury of 12 than being carried by 6. Anyway, next one. All right. Glad y'all like the jersey and whatnot to get me a fresh cut. I wanted to get a fresh cut for this, and I brought out the good stuff. After all, this is High and Mighty Talks. Is it not? All right. Okay. Let me see. We touched on the file. Indians. How the beast uses black and white people to his advantage. Now, I told you all that the term black and white are just merely classifications, right? Statuses in America. That's all black and white is. Okay? Asians, Caucasians, East Indians, some Africans, and people in different parts of the East, they are allowed to come into America and be classified as white. You see, we will never be classified as white because we are indigenous. See, the only indigenous people, let me just let y'all know, the indigenous people in America are referred to as black people. Okay? Really the copper colored people, they changed over to black people. And then when they changed over to black people, they made sure they dumped all their negative and degenerate stereotypes and negative connotations on us, which is really coming from them. That's really them. Okay? Drugs, father leaving them, mother on welfare. That's them. That wasn't us. That's them. All right. But they use black and white today. Like, for example, a lot of white people in this country are poor. Right? A lot of white people in America are poor. A lot of them are doing worse off than black people. A lot of black people are doing better than white people. You see, that's the truth. You can go on whole towns because they love to say white people. So when they use the term white people are supposed to be the majority here in this country. But that doesn't mean Caucasians are. White people are the majority or could be close to the majority, but that doesn't mean Caucasians. Keep in mind, white is not only classifying Caucasians, it's classifying Latinos, Asians, East Indians, some Africans, like from the East. So it's more than that. We just got our bronze, copper colored cells. That's it. We ain't got no African in us. We ain't got no African nothing. We over here on our own. Like I said, we've been in America. We did not come from Africa. America is where we descend from. Well, there was a descension from the fourth dimension, but I'm not going to get into that. Onto the Earth's surface. And when we hit the ground running, building civilizations and everything. We were projected here. And when we were projected here, we hit the ground running, building first civilizations all over the planet. You see, until we settled here in the Americas. We basically settled in the Americas. Or what's up, the Americas in the South and the central parts of America. And from there, that's when we started building civilizations. And look at the Bonaparte Temple and all this stuff. You can clearly see all those people on the walls and those ruins of the old cities and things like that. You can clearly see there's a bronze man. You can clearly see that the lips, the nose, everything. Even though history will try to deny it, or they'll try to step over that. You're not going to see a lot of coverage of the Mayans because they were somehow uncovering the Mayan their artifacts and stuff like that, which was in some part of Georgia. Like, now my thing is this: if there was no one to, there's no one to pick up a claim to money, right? If there's no one to, if there's no one to claim something, like I said, everything goes over to, the immigrants, right? We as indigenous people, like I said, we are constantly tasked with and harassed with, and punished for our indigenous status. That's really why we're labeled black. We're being punished every day because we are indigenous people. I don't know where y'all get this idea from that indigenous people are somehow treated with, like royalty or something like that. They call the so-called Mongoloid Indians, the so-called Native Americans Indians, and look at how they treat them. Look how they don't treat them. And again, I'm going to say it like this. They gave them casinos and they gave them their own reservations. So where exactly are these so-called Indians treated bad? They're not treated bad. They're given hotel casinos. They're given reservation delivery. They're given their own private police. This proves to you that the Mongoloid Indians are the first. They are really the first immigrants in America. The Asians are the first immigrants in America. The Asians. Then came the Caucasians. But we were already here. We saw the Asians come here, across the Bering Straits, and come over here during the slave trade, and we saw the Caucasians come in. We're the oldest people here on the planet and in America. This is our land. This is our country. This is not a white man's country. This is not a black man's country. This is a bright man's country, an intelligent man's country. This is a bronze man's country. This is the country of bronze, copper-colored people. This is their country. Go back and read the 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary of American, the meaning of the word American, 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary, and what the word American applies to. But they use that, like I said, they'll use like the wealthy, the rich Caucasians, you know, small hats, as you say, on getting those strikes. So we got to just say the small hats, right? The wealthy ones, they use the white trash, right? They use the white trash, your working white trash Caucasian. They'll use them to vote Republican and make them act like, oh, you like y'all Republicans and you better than these Negroes over these niggas over these blacks. You're better than them. So you're a Republican and you're voting for Donald Trump and whoever else. But they don't care about y'all. The wealthy elite Caucasian, they don't care about white trash. Y'all still on y'all still on welfare. Y'all still on meth. Y'all smoking damn crystal meth. You on welfare. Y'all ain't got a pot to piss in the window to throw it out of. You committing crimes. But see, the only difference is they're not arresting white people. In this country, they're not arresting Caucasians. They're not arresting them. The reason why you're going to see in a lot of these courts around the country, you check these out, they're letting these Caucasians off. In fact, the guy, Professor Black Truth, the guy, he does the Moment of Truth. He constantly covers on Friday. Check out his channel. Subscribe to him, Professor Black Truth, and the Moment of Truth. Subscribe to his thing, his channel every Friday. But he does stuff all the time. But every Friday he does a crime report, and in there he's always showing you these Caucasians who commit these heinous crimes. Yet 9 times out of 10 they don't get arrested. Right? They don't get arrested. The DA don't want to file no charges. They just want to let them go. Like that thing will happen where the Caucasian shot the black boy. I think it was in Ohio, one of these places somewhere, and he took claim the 13-year-old had a gun and had self-defense. That was all they needed to hear. They let the white man go. Didn't find no gun on the boy. Boy dead. Didn't find no gun or nothing like that. And he gets to go home. Now they out here killing your babies, man. You see, don't suffer from that same mentality like the guy Mallory, where you think these two-legged animals are your friends. They're not your friends. These humans are not our friends. I told you, y'all may not acknowledge what I'm saying is the almond race, but it's real nonetheless. You can't deny what's taking place here. We are, you know, so-called black people are in danger because you have these animals. You're constantly facing animal attacks. And at any given time, one of these animals could go off on you, especially the female ones. You so-called black males better watch out when you're dealing with these Karens and these, whatever they calling them, these Speckies and whatnot. Y'all love the cave woman so much. You better be careful when you're dealing with these goddamn Beckies, because they'll holler rape in a minute. After they'll fed up laying up with you, they'll finish laying up with you, and you done had your damn fantasy with a cave woman. You done committed bestiality. Then they'll be done turned around and call the goddamn cops on you. Okay, you raped them or get in an argument with them, or like that Sambo who got stabbed, that coon that got stabbed by the cave woman, you know, and they let her go. She killed her. She killed him and stabbed him up, and they let her go. All she had to say was self-defense. So just kill a black person and just, you know, it's self-defense. If you white. Or any other race, or Asian, you white, you kill a black person, self-defense. So you can go. We're not going to press charges. You just killed a nigger. That's nothing. You just killed one of these indigenous niggers. We want them all to go away anyway. That's the mindset of law enforcement in this country. They all racist. They're all racist. Every last single one of these law enforcement agencies, they all race soldiers. They're not no real law enforcement. I told you they're policy enforcement officers, and they're basically a gang of thugs. That's all they are. A bunch of white races, bunch of white race soldiers. That's what you're dealing with. And they're sponsored by you, and our taxpaying money is going to fund this. Beautiful. Man. We live in a sick world, man, with a lot of sick people. All right. So they basically use them. They use the white trash. The Caucasian elites use the white trash as they stormtroopers. That's why they'll give the white trash these police jobs. That's white trash. A lot of these ones who up here, you know, they basically was a bunch of goddamn losers in high school. You know, they went to the military. They white trash. So when they get these jobs, they like, oh man, I got a job making. I'm probably making damn near a little over minimum wage. Some of these cops barely getting $30,000, $40,000 a year, right? They get shitty pay, and don't let them see a so-called black person. They got to go out here and they got to hustle their money. They got to go out here and write tickets. They got to go out here and pull you over, look in your car, hoping to find money because they're going to rob your car. If they find money in your car, they're going to take your money. Okay? Remember that story about the black cop? He's a cop now. He had money on him in the police locker. He was taking all his money out, and the white cop saw him and pulled a gun on him and tried to arrest him for having money. Another cop. This is how serious this is. These animals are losing their minds. So again, man, we can't afford to, you know, walk around with our head in the clouds and hope things are gonna change and we all the same and kumbaya. Ain't no kumbaya with no two-legged animals, man. None. So let me see. Time is. All right, we're gonna go another 5 minutes. We're gonna end it off at 8. I guess I'll take some questions if let me see. Make sure I answered everything. Okay. Oh, let me get this last one. So I said black people aren't treated like indigenous people. The immigrants treat the indigenous people when they come and they storm into their neighborhoods, where they gentrifying your neighborhood, colonizing your country. They come in and they're going to make sure they treat the indigenous people like shit. Look at the Aborigines, the so-called Aborigines in Australia. Even though they mix down, they damn near white and everything. They human, they mix down. But originally they didn't look like that. They was like pretty much like so-called black people until the Caucasians came over and decided they wanted the country. And they basically came over there in lockstep, like they do, like a damn colony of roaches. They came over there, decided they want the damn country. So they start slaughtering the people, killing like how they did in South Africa. Same way they did in America. See, these Caucasians, these immigrants, they do the same thing wherever they go. They do the same thing wherever they go. All these humans do what they do when they go, especially when they come to where we at. Look over there in Africa. You got the Caucasians and the Asians over there basically treating you Africans like damn servants in your country. They living better in your country than you live in. You got them over there letting them set up companies in your country and talk to your people any kind of way. But you can't go to China and do that. You can't go to China and do that. You can't go to places in Europe and do that. You ain't going over there doing none of that. But they can come into Africa. That's why I'm not with none of this Pan-African garbage. Because number one, we're not African. And number two, you Africans, a lot of y'all are Sambos too, man. A lot of y'all are Sambos and coons. You take the same shit from these Caucasians like these Negroes over here do, man. So we ain't rocking with you, man. And then y'all don't like our people anyway, because like I said, y'all side with the people that treat y'all like crap too. You side with your Caucasian slave masters who made sure when they got over there they had to teach you about Jesus and everything else, like just to get you enslaved to them. They don't give a damn about your no religion. They just want you. They teach you religion to get you programmed to worship their image and be up under them. Right? That's what the slave masters did for. Why are the Israelites and Pan-Africanists? Why don't they acknowledge black Americans as indigenous? Why don't the Israelites and the Pan-Africanists acknowledge black Americans as indigenous? Because it would mess up their hustle. It would mess up their doctrine. Remember I told you, if the Israelites said, oh, wait a minute, my bad, the guy who came up with the 12 tribes sign, where he said that Judah, so-called black people, they are from Africa and they were born on cargo slave ships, and everybody else on the sign is from America. They then have to revise that to say that pretty much, matter of fact, all the Judah, who you call them Judah, and maybe and all the tribes are really supposed to be bronze people here in the Americas. That's why I told you the early Israelites were practicing a form of Israelite customs. They were practicing Israelite customs and following Israelite law. The men had on fringes, so you even see a lot of the Indian garb, even the Mongoloid Native Americans copy, they would have fringes on their garments. They didn't touch the woman while she was on her cycle. They believed in and performed circumcision on the boys. See, this is all Hebraic law and order and custom and tradition, which come from us. Circumcision, not touching or laying with the woman while she on her menstrual cycle, right? Not eating pork. Our people didn't eat pork. The indigenous people did not eat pork because, number one, pig wasn't even over here. They brought pig over, the Spanish, the Caucasian Spanish. They brought pig over here. They brought pork over here. That's what they ate. Because a lot of these Europeans, they love some swine. Right? So, let me see. All right. When you're there, I'm trying to see if there's any questions. Take a few before I close it out. I pretty much answered all of it. All right. It's going to be a short one. Let me look over my questions real quick before I close it out. I was hoping one of my wives would take us a I don't have time to look at the questions like that. So don't be mad at me. I ain't got time to look at the questions like that. All right. So I'm going to just go ahead and wrap it up. I don't really see nothing because it's too much to look through. So, all right. Just share this. Like and share. Like and share. If you like the jersey, we're going to have them on sale. This is from our Underlord company. We're going to have a lot of nice polos and jerseys and hoodies and hats and, stuff for the women from the Underlord company. This is just the sports stuff. I like, because men like to sit around. We like sports and things like that. And, I like football and basketball. That's why. And I like baseball from time to time. I'll watch it. But I can't watch a full game. I ain't going to watch that. Yeah, I ain't going to front and sad, dude. But all right, so we're going to wrap this up. We're going to close out in the name of Amen, by the power of Amen. Amen we trust, and Amen we think, and Amen we continue forward forever. Subscribe to High and Mighty Talk. Subscribe to this channel. Boost this channel. Share it on TikTok. If you like the content, we're going to have even more fire content. I'm going to be coming back. I'm gonna be always coming sporadically, rocking the feathered head crowns, which is from us. I'm gonna bring more harder content and hit you with nothing but real, raw, and uncut truth. So subscribe to this. Subscribe to this High and Mighty Talks. Share and get other people to subscribe. Let's blow this channel up. Subscribe to Sister Enra Vanzetta's Ethnic American channel. She had a good documentaries up there. She got a new one up there. I think it's a new one. And also subscribe to my MENTELLECT Patreon, because we're doing American Republic Radio tonight. Subscribe to MENTELLECT Patreon, MENTELLECT, MENTELLECT Patreon, to hear the full, raw and uncut broadcasts I've done, concerning a little bit of everything under the sun for the most part. So, and again, tune in tonight for American Republic Radio. And with that, we out.